If I told you that a player who missed 8 months with injury, who watched her team make a playoff run without her, who hadn't played a single competitive minute since mid-July of last year, could come back and win MVP of an international tournament in her very first week on the court, you might say that sounds like a movie script. But that is exactly what Caitlin Clark just did. And what happened in the days after might be reshaping the entire future of women's basketball. Let's talk about it. To understand why this moment matters so much, you have to understand what Caitlin Clark went through to get here. Rewind to 2024, her rookie year with the Indiana Fever. Clark averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game. She was named WNBA Rookie of the Year almost unanimously, earned all WNBA first-team honors, and set a single-season assist record with 337. She was an all-star. She was, by virtually every measure, one of the most impactful rookies the league had ever seen. The expectations heading into year 2 were enormous. And then 2025 happened. Clark's sophomore season was derailed almost from the start. A left quad injury, then a left groin strain, then a right groin sprain suffered during a win over the Connecticut Sun on July 15th, and that was essentially it. She played just 13 games. When she was healthy, she was still very good, averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5.0 rebounds per game. But the injuries kept compounding. By September, the Fever made the painful but necessary decision to shut her down for the rest of the year. Clark wouldn't play again in 2025, not in the regular season and not in the playoffs. Now here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. The Fever didn't collapse without her. In fact, they made a playoff run, winning their first postseason series in a decade before eventually being eliminated by the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals. It was a remarkable achievement that proved the team had grown around Clark, but it also raised a complicated question that lingered throughout the offseason. What exactly does this team look like when Caitlin Clark comes back? That question started getting answered in March of this year, just days ago, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Clark was selected for the Team USA roster competing in the FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament, her first time suiting up for the senior national team. This was not a low-pressure exhibition. Team USA needed to qualify for the 2026 World Cup in Berlin, scheduled for September. And Clark hadn't played competitive basketball in roughly 239 days. The doubts were understandable. After months of rehab, after a season defined by setbacks, how would she look? Would she be rusty? Would she be tentative? Would the explosiveness and court vision that made her special still be there? The answer came in the opening game against Senegal on March 11th, and it was emphatic. Coming off the bench, not even starting, Clark put up 17 points and 12 assists in just 20 minutes. A double-double. In 20 minutes. She hit 4 three-pointers on 5 attempts. The United States won 110-64, and Clark looked like she had never been away. For anyone who had been nervously watching the 8-month clock, this was the exhale they needed. But she wasn't done. Over the course of 5 games, Clark led Team USA in total points with 58 and total assists with 32. She played more minutes than any other player on the roster, 105 minutes and 56 seconds across the tournament, which is notable considering she didn't start most of the games. She averaged 11.6 points on an efficient 52.9% shooting, along with 6.4 assists, 1.6 rebounds, and 2.0 pointers per game. Team USA went undefeated, finishing with a perfect 5-0 record and clinching their spot in Berlin. And then came the announcement that set the basketball world buzzing. Caitlin Clark was named the tournament's most valuable player. Now, here is where the conversation gets interesting, because not everyone agreed with that decision. According to reports and reactions across social media, a significant number of fans felt that other players were more deserving of the honor. The name that came up most frequently was Rhyne, the Atlanta Dream guard and three-time All-Star, who averaged 10.0 points on 50% shooting with 1.6 steals and 3.0 three-pointers per game, all while playing fewer minutes than Clark. Some fans pointed out that Howard earned Player of the Game honors twice during the tournament, while Clark did not receive the award in any individual game. That disconnect, winning the overall MVP without being named best player in any single game, struck some observers as inconsistent. Other fans highlighted the contributions of Angel Reese, who registered a double-double of her own with 10 points and 13 rebounds against Puerto Rico. Paige Bueckers, making her senior national team debut alongside Clark and Reese, was also impressive, scoring 16 points in that same game. Both players, along with Jackie Young, were among the nominees for the MVP award. The backlash was vocal. Comments ranged from claims that the system was rigged to suggestions that Clark's commercial profile and media visibility were influencing the decision. Some fans accused FIBA of favoring Clark because of her marketability rather than her on-court production alone. But here's where a little analysis and context is worth applying, because the raw numbers actually do support the selection more than the critics might suggest. Clark led the entire team in two of the most critical statistical categories, scoring and assists, across the full 5-game tournament. She did so on efficient shooting, and she did so while logging the most minutes on the roster. Her 6.4 assists per game were the best of any player in the tournament, not just on Team USA. For a point guard, that kind of floor generalship matters enormously, even if it doesn't always produce flashy individual game highlights. It's also worth noting that MVP awards in international basketball often prioritize cumulative impact across the tournament rather than peak single-game performances. By that standard, Clark's consistency was hard to argue against. She didn't have a quiet game. She contributed meaningfully every time she stepped on the court. That said, the critics aren't entirely without a point either. Basketball is subjective, and Rhyne's efficiency and two Player of the Game awards represent a legitimate case. The beauty of this debate is that it reflects the growing depth of talent in women's basketball. This isn't a situation where one player is heads and shoulders above the rest. Multiple players performed at an elite level, and the margins between them were thin. That's a sign of a healthy, competitive ecosystem, and frankly, it's exciting. What makes Clark's performance even more compelling is the broader context surrounding it. This wasn't just a comeback to basketball. It was a statement about where her career is heading. The 2026 WNBA season is approaching, and Clark returns to an Indiana Fever team that will look different from the one she left. Reports indicate that only 3 players from last season's roster are currently under contract for 2026, meaning the Fever are in the middle of a significant roster overhaul. And there's the financial dimension, which is impossible to ignore. Under the new collective bargaining agreement that the WNBA and its players' union finalized just days ago, narrowly avoiding a lockout that could have delayed or canceled the 2026 season, Clark's salary is set to jump from approximately $78,000 in 2025 to a projected $530,000 in 2026. According to ESPN, she could be eligible for a maximum salary of $1.3 million in 2027 and a Supermax deal worth $1.7 million in 2028. Those numbers are transformative, not just for Clark, but for the league. Many fans and commentators have credited Clark, along with other rising stars like Reese and Bueckers, with helping drive the surge in WNBA visibility and revenue that made the new CBA possible. It's a feedback loop. These players attract viewers, viewers attract sponsors, sponsors increase revenue, and increased revenue allows the league to pay its athletes more fairly. Whether you love Clark's game or think she gets too much attention, her role in accelerating that cycle is difficult to deny. Now, looking ahead, the question on everyone's mind is the 2026 WNBA season itself. Clark has now proven she's healthy and sharp. She played heavy minutes in Puerto Rico and looked comfortable doing so. The Fever will be building around her with what promises to be a retooled roster. And the league itself is entering a new era with a fresh CBA, expansion discussions, and a level of public interest that would have been hard to imagine just a few years ago. There's also the World Cup in Berlin in September. Clark isn't technically a lock for that roster. No player is until USA Basketball makes the official announcement. But after winning the qualifying tournament MVP, it would be a genuine shock if she weren't included. The prospect of Clark, Reese, Bueckers, Howard, and a full-strength Team USA competing on the world stage is the kind of event that could further elevate the sport internationally. What we witnessed in San Juan wasn't just a player returning from injury. It was a player making a declaration. 8 months away from the game, a season defined by frustration and rehabilitation, watching from the sideline as her teammates made history without her, and then stepping back onto the court and performing as if none of it happened. That takes more than talent. That takes mental fortitude. Fans are reacting to this moment from every possible angle. Some see validation. Some see favoritism. Some see the future of the sport crystallizing in real time. And all of those perspectives have something to them. So here's the question I want to leave you with, and I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Considering everything Caitlin Clark went through in 2025 and the way she came back in this tournament, do you think the 2026 WNBA season could be the year she puts together a full, healthy campaign and makes a serious run at league MVP? Or are there too many variables? A new roster, a new CBA, rising competition from players like Bueckers entering the league, for anyone to predict what happens next? Drop your take below. I read every single one. And if you found this breakdown valuable, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this WNBA offseason is far from over, and the stories are just getting started.